Hey, what's up, Canada and beyond? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, grannies and gators. It is Tuesday, August 20th, and tonight's going to be a little bit interesting, a little bit weird for me. I got to be straight up with that. This is going to be a tough one for me to watch because the hardest thing for me to ever do is to listen to myself when I'm doing after I've recorded something or I've been on a show. I really struggle to listen to myself. But tonight we're going to the meat and potatoes of tonight's story. When we get into that, is going to be further context to some of the amazing work that Blacklocks has been doing, exposing the origins of, or the machinations and the money, shall we say, behind the anti-hate network. So we're going to do a bit of a watch party to further on to that. So it's going to be tough, like I said, for me to watch the old production value. But what I'm going to share with you guys, I paid a price for it when I did it in 2021. Derek Story and I did the dive work on it, and it was one of the first times we seriously got deplatformed, attacked. They went after my banking, all of that, my PayPal, my platforms. That was basically when I lost my first set of websites. But you know what? It'll mean more now today than it did back then. So this is although people are getting closer to the heart of the swamp creatures, we're going to help them out a little bit more. So we've had a big few days here. What's up, Canada, guys? So I'm going to start off with filling you guys in on a little bit of what's gone on here the last week, just for those that haven't been able to keep up. Where's the best place to get caught up is whatsupcanada.org. Guys, the site there has everything that we've done. If you guys caught yesterday's story with Glorraine, it was pretty phenomenal. Can you imagine being alone in a foreign country, exposing your own government and the judiciary in your government for crimes against humanity and persecution? Not saying France is a great place to be either, but that's pretty amazing story, one worth checking out. Tomorrow night, guys, don't forget Michael Yon. That one is going to be a viewer discretion show. I don't think people are going to be quite ready for that, but yeah, on the bottom of the page, guys, the Substack link. That's what I wanted to get here down to for everybody. You can also get to that just from going to the Conquer Censorship. We have to get and establish alternative modes and places of communication. This is getting serious. We're going to talk a little bit about C63 tonight, and who's driving the bus behind that. A lot of people have been seeing what's going on in the UK and in Ireland, and it's disconcerting to say the least. But before we get into that, we're going to go over to X. And I don't know whether to be impressed or terrified, honestly. So I saw Sean Newman, a friend of ours, had gone to Grok, which, if you don't know, is Elon Musk's artificial intelligence alternative. And I asked it to describe the What's Up Canada podcast. And for the folks that are out here on 4x2s, that's going to be a little tough to read. I got back way more of a response that than I ever would have expected. And so I'm going to read it to you guys here. And I want everybody's feedback on this. I've shared this out across multiple platforms. This just happened like 2 hours ago, basically. So the question was, I said, describe the What's Up Canada podcast. And the answer was, What's Up Canada with Wayne Peters is a podcast that dives deep into the heart of Canadian issues, often exploring where others might tread lightly. Here's a detailed look based on general knowledge and sentiments reflected on social media. Seems pretty straight up so far, right? Content focus. The podcast tackles a wide array of topics from political controversies to social issues, aiming to expose and discuss elements of Canadian life that might not always make headlines or are covered in depth by mainstream media. Wayne Peters, the host, is known for his direct approach, often focusing on stories that reveal the underbelly of Canadian politics and society. Given where we're moving into a social credit system, I might not be nearly as impressed with this if I were to do this a year from now. But so far, I need Grok to do my job. Maybe we should start calling this the world according to Grok. But I'll carry on. Format and style. While specific details on format weren't provided, given the nature of the podcast description on social platforms like X, formerly Twitter, it's likely that What's Up Canada features a mix of solo commentary by Wayne Peters, interviews, and perhaps discussions with guests who offer insights or are directly involved in the issues at hand. Smart cookie. The style is investigative and sometimes confrontational, aiming to provoke thought and discussion. Boy, this thing is starting to that's almost kind of creepy to me, reading how it's describing me and, knowing who I am, right? And you folks too. So kind of knows me, I think. But audience engagement. The podcast seems to engage its audience by not only informing, but also by challenging listeners' perceptions. Posts related to the podcast on X indicate a community that values deep dives into topics, appreciates the exposure of corruption or hidden truths, and engages in discussions about Canada's political and social landscape. Share this out, guys. This is the best promotional review I think I've ever gotten. Right? So, release schedule. It needs a little help here. We're Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Central, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, and of course 8:30 Eastern, or Newfoundland, right? While exact details on the press release schedule aren't provided, the podcast's presence on platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts suggests regular episodes, possibly weekly or bi-weekly, given the nature of content that requires research and timely discussion. I'm a machine. It's Monday to Friday. But the reference to Spotify and Apple Podcasts, I appreciate because I never remember to tell people that you can find me there. Since I started doing Substack, it kicks over to, has a thingy that kicks it over to Apple and Spotify. So yeah, it's over there. And then we're going to get into a few other strange things that happened today. But so yeah, it does take a lot of research, and I try to provide timely discussion. So impact and perception. From social media posts, it's clear that What's Up Canada has a niche but dedicated following. That's you guys, and they know you love me, or you love the show, or you love what I do. You love something, but you're dedicated. So yeah, we do have dedicated following because we build community, not following. So I do know the answer to that. So listeners appreciate its no-holds-barred approach to journalism, often praising its efforts in uncovering stories that might be overlooked or underreported. That's what I try to do. Exactly that, right? However, like any podcast dealing with controversial topics, it also attracts criticism or skepticism, especially when discussing sensitive or divisive issues. If it could read my private messages, it'd get an awful lot of the sorry you were right later afterwards, but it can't know that, right? Call to action. The podcast encourages listeners to engage further, not just through listening, but by sharing, discussing, and perhaps even contributing to the stories or investigations. This engagement is part of its strategy to foster a community around the podcast. No, it's about around the country and our morals, values, and ethics, but close enough, right? Making listeners feel like they're part of a movement for transparency and truth in media. Well, that you absolutely are. So, cultural impact. While not universally recognized, What's Up Canada seems to have carved out a space for itself in the Canadian podcasting scene, particularly among those interested in politics, investigative journalism, and the less glamorous aspects of Canadian life and governance. This description is crafted based on the general sentiment and information available up to August 2024, reflecting the podcast's mission to inform, engage, and sometimes provoke its audience about Canadian issues. Wow. Wow. What do you think of that? Hey, guys? Yeah. Uh, some great comments up here, guys. Thank you. Um, yeah, it does sound pretty spot on, almost scary spot on to me. And like I said, I don't really know how to take that. I'm going to borrow. I'm going to use some of that. Hey, like I said, that's some of the best promotional material I've ever gotten. So, uh, yeah. But the idea of it is that this machine that is brand new could know me better than I know myself, or describe me better than I could describe myself. That kind of is a little bit uncanny to me. Why wouldn't people want to use this, right? Thank you, guys. I appreciate this. To me, I also hear this as confirmation. That exactly what I'm striving to do. I'm doing it. That I definitely appreciate. I appreciate your guys's comments and support, because this is exactly, they nailed it. The machine nailed it. I don't even know how to respond to it. He, she, it, what? Um, yeah. So interesting stuff, and I just wanted not to hear so much. I appreciate you guys and your positive feedback, but I would think, how would that make you feel? You know, when the machine, the new machine, knows you better, or I'm not gonna say, I can't say that. I can't say that. It knows my digital, it recognizes my digital representation, but it really doesn't know me. It knows my work. But this is definitely thought provoking to me. So a couple other things that happened today. I just wonder if I pull that up. But yeah, I had my other YouTube channel permanently deleted today, guys. So yeah, the original What's Up Canada YouTube channel, with tens of thousands of followers, is no more, never to be seen. It is gone. Toast. Sayonara. Bye-bye. Yeah. So that was interesting. And I also had a character named John Cena follow me today with 14 million followers on X. Let's see if we can pull that one up here for folks. Maybe. No. I blew it. But interesting thing about that is this was pre doing my little questionnaire of Grok. John Cena has like 14.5 million followers on X. He's a really controversial character, businessman. To me, I always thought a bit of a weirdo, but the guy has 14.5 million confirmed followers. It's a confirmed profile. It's not a bot or any of those kinds of things. So I checked that out. And this brings me to the other consideration of the day, the ping ponging that they're doing with us in the Ian Cena. You can't see me; he sees you. He's quite a character, controversial, and he's also an entertainer. But I've been told that he's also a brilliant business person. So I really don't know anything about him, but interesting to note, and I've been noting this through some of the international work that we've been doing. it's starting to get noticed elsewhere, and that is pretty cool to me. So we're going to get to the heart and potatoes of this stuff, what we're here for tonight. Yeah, the actor John Cena, he was a former UFC or wrestling athlete, kind of that kind of entertainment, but he's doing all kinds of, I like I say, I really don't know anything about the guy. I didn't, he wasn't, y'all probably know way more about him, but he followed me today, and because he's engaging in some of the same circles that we're starting to travel in, and maybe I'll get a chance to speak to him at some point. But I think this is the kind of thing, guys, that you guys are going to start seeing an expanded growth in this community. And this is kind of wanted to bring this up through people like Michael Yon, John Cena, even Gloriane last night, Jim Ferguson in the UK. Our community here is starting to make a far greater impact internationally. So that's why I kind of wanted to bring some of this other stuff up. So when people are, if you ever want to tell somebody about what's up Canada and what this community does, it's not just Wayne Peters, it's the entire community, as Grok so wonderfully described. We're about building a community, and maybe it'll pick up on a couple of those corrections. So now, after the viewer discretion warning, everything that you guys will see here tonight is or was, operative term these days, publicly available information. So we're going to start out with a couple of minutes from a clip from Scoop Canada. And what happened with this is as I found this, and I went to find the original clip that he sourced at Wiretap Media, and that clip was no longer available on X. So we're going to start with this, with what we got, but there is way more to come.
A board member of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network and the brains behind the Online Harms Act, Bill C-63, has a history that raises some serious concerns.
Okay, now the part, a couple seconds there, that was clipped is Bernie Farber. Bernie Farber is who we're introducing here in this moment. So he's a board member, founder of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, and yes, the mastermind behind the Online Harms Act, Bill C-63. Bernie Farber has mastered the use of Russian propaganda, and here he is speaking fluent Russian in a 2012 electoral campaign for the Liberal Party of Canada. This was the part I did not know about Bernie Farber. I didn't know he spoke fluent Russian. All of a sudden now I might have to rework some of the information and knowledge that we have had over the last while, because perhaps there has been Russian influence and intervention in Canada that we didn't even know or see coming. We always assume that they're speaking about us, Russian influenced in propaganda, all of this kind of stuff. I think this is starting to look a whole lot more like the Russian influence. The Russian infiltrator might be Mr. Bernie Farber. Check this out.
Farber, who has become a central figure in pushing the censorship bill, isn't just trying to regulate online speech, he's actively working to suppress freedom of expression in Canada. What's even more alarming is his background. In a 2012 electoral campaign for the Liberal Party of Canada, Farber was caught speaking fluent Russian, showing a proficiency in using tactics reminiscent of Russian propaganda. But his troubling actions don't stop there. During the Freedom Convoy, Farber took to social media to spread disinformation, attempting to discredit and slander hardworking Canadians who were exercising their legal right to dissent. Instead of respecting the voices of concerned citizens, he chose to label them as dangerous, further fueling division in the country. Now, with the Online Harms Act, Farber's influence is poised to extend even further, giving the government unprecedented power to control what Canadians can say online. This isn't about protecting anyone, it's about silencing those who dare to speak out against the liberal agenda. Farber's role in this bill reveals a disturbing pattern, one where dissent is crushed and free speech is under constant threat. Canadians need to be aware of who is behind these efforts to stifle our freedoms. Farber's actions, both past and present, should be a wake-up.
We're going to really get into some of his past actions going back. Yeah, you guys are going to love this.
Call. The Online Harms Act is not just another piece of legislation, it's a dangerous tool designed to control and suppress the voices of ordinary Canadians. And we must not let that happen. Trudeau's criminal associate, Arif Virani, has publicly declared that the Online Harms Act, Bill C-63, is modeled after similar legislation passed in the UK. This should set off alarm bells for every Canadian who values their freedom of speech. In the UK, this kind of legislation has already started to show its true colors. English police are now issuing arrest warrants for Facebook comments simply because an anonymous person claims to be offended.
Берни Фарбер, человек с огромным опытом общественной работы. Берни Фарбер начинал свою карьеру в обществе помощи детям. 27 лет он проработал в Еврейском конгрессе Канады, 7 последних из них как исполнительный директор. Берни Фарбер – один из ведущих в Канаде экспертов по борьбе с антисемитизмом. Уже 23 года Берни Фарбер живет в семье в Торнхилле, а в школе он изучил.
Let that sink in. A single anonymous complaint is.
Now, I've reached out to Wiretap Media. Now, initially, where this post was used, Wiretap Media had some of the original footage from 2012. So at this point, I am assuming until further informed that yes, this tape actually exists, and this explains so much, Carly. So you guys are going to get such a head exploding walk through the Alice in Wonderland of Bernie Farber and co. over the next little bit. And you're going to get some, levity and laughing at, how far my work has come since the early days. But I'll go back to this for just a couple more minutes.
Is enough to have someone arrested. You don't get to know who your accuser is. You don't get to defend yourself against them. And yet, you can still be punished.
That's C-63.
This is the kind of dystopian reality that Trudeau's government, with the help of people like Virani, is trying to import into Canada. It's a blatant assault on one of the most basic principles of justice, the right to face your accuser. The idea that someone could be arrested for expressing an opinion on social media is terrifying. It's an open door to abuse, where anyone with a grudge or a political agenda can silence others by merely claiming to be offended. There's no accountability, no transparency, and certainly no justice in a system that allows this to happen. This isn't about protecting people from harm. It's about controlling what they can say and think. It's about silencing dissent and making sure that only government-approved narratives are heard. The Online Harms Act is nothing more than a tool for censorship dressed up in the language of safety and protection. We should be deeply concerned about the direction this is heading. Canada is on the brink of adopting laws that will make it a crime to speak your mind if it offends the wrong person. And under Bill C-63, you won't even know who that person is. This is not the Canada we know and love. This is not a country that values freedom and democracy. Trudeau and his associates like Arif Virani are pushing Canada down a very dangerous path. The right to free speech, the right to face your accuser, and the right to fair treatment under the law are all under threat. We must stand up against Bill C-63 before it's too late, or we risk losing the very freedoms that define our nation. Also, take a minute.
All right, that's oh, Carly, do some digging, do some diving. I'm bringing what I find as I find it, when I find it. If you don't want to believe it, please, by all means, I could use the help. When you find something, let me know. But at this point, this is currently what we know. So we're going to move on to the watch party part of the Bernie Farber and co. Shit show. And we'll carry on from there. And this is the part that some of you guys are probably going to find a little bit disturbing, and hold on for the ride.
To have lawyers to defend themselves and all of those things.
I refresh this. So. This is going to be almost as new for me as it will be for you.
What's up, Canada?
How's it going?
All right. Today's a big day. Can't wait to see who all is going to get in here today. We've been working on this story, what we're going to share with you guys today. This is 4 months in the making. This is going to be kind of eye-opening. We were honestly really nervous about doing this reveal on this organization and this group and this NGO, hoping that one of the big mainstream companies would clue into this story because they have the ability to have lawyers to defend themselves and all of those things. But with everything that's been happening in Canada for the last month now, with the roadblocks and the Extinction Rebellion and this Shut Down Canada movement, we couldn't wait anymore. We just couldn't, because it's the same people, and we couldn't allow these guys to keep going unchecked with no news agency speaking about them or telling you, the people, who has really declared war on you guys and how they're doing it.
Yeah, we've been digging into this for, well, this whole year, and it just keeps on piling and piling and piling. You keep finding more. I found like 5 more the other night, to go with this story, but we're going to give you what we got.
Yeah, this whole thing is a giant network, way bigger than even most of us that have been involved in this fight for free speech. Most of us know that this is a big network, but we haven't been able to shed light on all of it. And some of the things that we want you guys to know and understand before we get into this is just the beginning. This is just one of hundreds. We're going to introduce you to about a half a dozen or 10 people throughout this. They are just a few of thousands that are involved in these networks. We're only going to show you a couple of organizations here because we're just getting started. After this, what we need you guys to do is to do some research, dig into these people, these organizations, these NGOs. These are the guys that have declared war on you, declared war on Canada. They are using other people like the Wet'suwet'en, and the entire Indigenous debate right now is not legit. These guys are part of that. So we really want you guys to understand this. They're going to come after us. So we're going to need you guys to carry on if they take and silence us down out of this. This is an overview. This is going to show you some of the umbrella. After this one, we're immediately going to work again on to being more specific and comprehensive on each one of these organizations. Okay, we're going to introduce you to 3 of them today. Some of them you're familiar with. One I guarantee you've not heard of before. So after this, we'll try to, as soon as we can, try to get one out once a week if we can about each one of these guys specifically and more in depth, and give you guys more information to sink your teeth into. Know your enemy. This is who is, I mean, you guys didn't make these guys your enemy. They declared you the enemy. You guys have been suffering from these guys for well over a year. Some of the people that are going to get brought out into this, now we're not making any allegations. We're not accusing anybody of it.
I just want to add, I see a couple of comments here. These groups are funded by crowdsourcing and philanthropy. No, what's triggered me to look into this in the beginning was the $43 million, I think it was, that Trudeau committed to fighting hate in Canada. That was in the mainstream news, and then all of a sudden it was not. They do a lot of crowdsourcing and funding through their front groups. You guys will see some of those, and through the unions as well. So we're going to tie in a lot of that as well to these guys. and lawyers. A fellow named Richard Warman is probably one of the most threatening individuals on the planet when it comes to lawfare. So wanted to, before we got too far away ahead of those.
Anything. This is just what you're going to see. You're going to see here in this, what we show you tonight, you're going to see the actual pages of the court documents that name these people and what they're involved in. This isn't us making wild accusations.
It's all published stuff. It's all online. Everything that we found is online. So
we will make all of these resources.
What we did is we had court transcripts from a case brought against Bernie Farber and Warren Kinsella of Daisy Group by a lady named Elise Hadigan. Elise has been working with Karima Siad in the Hategate story recently, and Blacklogs has uncovered more than another $1 million going to this organization. So there's 3 different stories that all come back to these individuals that we're going to deep dive in here. Once I stop babbling, man, I am worse than I am now, that's for sure.
Where we've accumulated all of this information, we will make that available to you guys as well. This is not going to stop them from coming after us. Fact or truth doesn't matter. They will silence us. They will keep us tied up in court under non-publishing mandates. So this is what they're going to do to us. The same thing they do to everybody else. So this is why, before we get into it, we want you guys to know. Dig into this after this. We're making this public across everywhere we can. Share this out, guys.
Mind your comments, mind your reactions. That's another important thing to do because they're going to be watching everybody.
Absolutely.
So you got to watch what you say, unfortunately, but this is a big topic. So you guys got to be tough, be strong, and
don't feed the trolls. Resist the urge to defend people, to engage with them. If you see something that is a blatant attack, report it. Do not engage with them. Take a screenshot if you can, or you can think to. Send it to us. There is volumes of information being accumulated. There is a directory being accumulated because we have realized that there are hundreds of people involved here. Some of them are going to really shock you.
Well, that directory and everything disappeared with my first website. So I've still got everything that I used to put this show together, but all of the extra additional stuff, they got that.
And this is going to go right up to people in positions of government.
Yes.
So
it's the lighting I have, see? It's really bright.
All right. So I'm just going to take a quick scroll through the comments here. And see if there's
2021, Stefan. 2021. January.
They're going to do everything they can to discredit us, to make us seem all of the ists and the ogenies and the things that they resort to in their regular everyday playbook. So you're going to see a lot of us. And on that note, some of them that we didn't list in this video for you guys to watch is, especially on Twitter, is a group called YVCE, which is Yellow Vest Canada Exposed, which is another misnomer. We are regular fodder on there. Some of the other ones are
there's Extinction Rebellion,
Rebellion, ARC,
the
Tower, North Shore,
Defense League, and all
Defense League.
Down.
Yeah, so these are some that we didn't even name, we didn't even touch on in here, but this is where you're going to see them react, and react they will. They will overreact. They will react epically. They may attempt to remove us from our paid.
Okay, just to, I don't want you to think I'm ignoring you, Don Record Man. When it comes to the rail strike stuff, you're probably ahead of the curve, and I'll be diving into some of that on Thursday. But I think that there's a lot more to this than that, given that Bill Gates owns the railroads, and we all know what they have planned for all of us. But just to drop a little seed on that, the first video that Rumble ever removed was an inside Veritas type video of the Canadian Rail Workers Union meeting with the head of the Teamsters Union, and they caught the head of the Teamsters Union saying, look, guys, we know that this is illegal, but the boss is Trudeau's buddy, so we're doing it anyway. So I had that entire 2-hour or 3-hour video union meeting captured and published on Rumble, and they removed that. So when it comes to the railroad stuff, baby ducks, that's for another day, another investigation. But at this, for the case and story of this, remember when they were trying to stop, trains burning railroad tracks, burning tires, all of that kind of stuff. These are some of the participants in all of that that'll connect back to a lot of what you're seeing right now.
Pages, get our pages shut down, all of these things. So what we've done is we've compiled all of this into a video documentary. And we're going to play this and sit with you guys here. And as we come to stuff, we may pause it to take a little bit more time to explain and interact with you guys, so that by the end of this, it's only a 40-minute video, 35-minute video. You guys will know exactly who you need to be looking at, who is coming at you, and exactly where to go from there. All right, guys?
So I'm going to bring it up here and start a little bit.
All right.
Full screen.
Yeah. No wonder nobody watched it, but
we'll be watching
the
comments and chirp in as we need.
Violence.
If that's what it took, yes.
And by violence, what do you mean?
I would. Physically blocking someone, if that's what it took, sure. If it took punching someone in the face or throwing a milkshake on them, sure.
No cameraman, fucking call 911, bro. Do you think of the incident that happened here? Does that not?
I mean, we didn't just live there.
This was a CBC documentary by the Fifth Estate, where they literally were pretending that that Antifa are the victims in Canada. CBC glorified Antifa. This thug that they're talking to here, oh, poor me, he got, I'm not saying that he should have been attacked or in any way, shape, or form was even actually intact, but this psycho literally walks around Calgary carrying a sword, pumping and stoking Antifa like they're his dogs. This is the guy that CBC, one of them that CBC chose to glorify in this documentary. And this watching this again is probably going to trigger me a little bit more, because nothing was done about these crooks, criminals, and thugs, and we have so much evidence on these guys. But this is Jason armed with a sword at a pro-Iran rally in Calgary. I was at that rally. It was disgusting in 2020.
So, guys, I just wanted to pause there for a quick second. A bunch of you guys may or may not have seen that Fifth Estate documentary where they basically gave Antifa a pedestal to cry from, and Jason was one of the biggest crybabies down there, and this picture of him with the sword was taken within the last couple of months downtown here in Calgary. This is how this man thinks. They get on TV and then cry. And that documentary was also the means where the world was basically able to identify this fellow you're about to learn from next. So this is where we will take a peek into Antifa Inc.
Y'all ready?
I was consistently triggered by that guy anyway.
Is a warning from the 7th Division in Des Moines. Conducting dispersion and targeted interventions. We order you to leave the premises immediately and not to interfere with the police intervention underway.
These were Antifa riots in Montreal.
We may not recognize it. They didn't announce it, but they have definitely, absolutely identified and declared war on you, the people. It is real. It is upon you. We are right now taking part in Antifa's digital war.
Do you see that photographer there? These police cars were decommissioned units, and those photographers and reporters were mainstream. They were there working with Antifa in Toronto. Bill Blair's worked there, folks. He was the police chief in Toronto at that time. He set that up for him. That's why he got the comfy, cushy job. Those people in those flags in this video are the same people throwing gas on the Palestinian saga that we're witnessing.
So there was a good question just came up in here in the comment section here on Facebook. What dates were these videos taken? I just want to address that. I meant to add that into the video, but it just, we didn't get to that. These videos range from 2007 until current.
Yeah, so like May Day in Montreal, the G20, there's all kinds of places. We just kind of put it together to show
their actions, their escalations, right? So there's some from Sudbury, from Hamilton, Peterborough. Some of the footage in here you'll see is our own footage. Some has been accumulated through other media that is available out there. So I just wanted to address that. Thank you for the question.
But at one point, and it seems to happen a lot,
does the attachment to the right cause become some sort of self-propelling thing, and suddenly the person backing the cause becomes, I don't know, not a dictator, but consumed by their own virtue, to the point that then they say, well, whatever disagrees with me, you're against all that's right. There's an infection there somewhere.
There's two major aspects to it. One is that at a certain point, you have tackled all the really important subjects in one. The only way to remain in a confrontational, adversarial, bad guys, good guys situation is to adopt ever more extreme positions, eventually abandoning science and logic altogether in political science or political activity that doesn't make any sense. Many organizations start out as volunteers with a noble cause, but not too long after, if they're successful, they actually end up being a kind of business with a payroll to meet, and fundraising suddenly comes to the forefront as being the primary objective, and then it turns into a racket.
I love Rex Murphy.
Once it reaches racket status, that's why we're here. Antifa is the enforcement arm of the social Marxist narrative. We're going to show you the evidence. You guys decide for yourself if they're bad actors. Are they forcing Marxist justice on Canadians? Do they have a license for this? Are they accountable? Is this justice or profit? We can only show you a little bit today, folks, but this is big, and the story is going to get bigger. It's up to us to make them and to force the exposure of all of this that's happening. All right, this is great. You guys may have seen a comment pop up if you're following on YouTube, but one of these guys who is a lieutenant of some of the people on the screen that you're seeing right now operates under the handle of Get a Whale. His name is Mike Lockman. You may have seen him out there already as a regular harasser and attacker of anybody that speaks out. He tries to come across as this articulate guy. We did a video on him a couple of months back. We've done a few videos on him. And Jamie Nix has done some videos on him. So for the interest of this, I have blocked him from this stream. Ordinarily, I believe in free speech. These guys are the enemy. So I really have no choice. Just felt I should explain that. And we'll carry on.
Yeah, they've been
These
listening.
guys have industrialized manufacturing haters for political gain and profit. It's not law firms, unions, and government agencies. They needed to create a problem to provide the solution in their own profit. What they do to people within their own mid that disagree with them.
They literally blinded this guy with spray paint. He was there to support them.
This network is extensive, well-funded, and well-organized. Some of these guys are not your average street thugs. Their job is to really long enough to demographically replace us and keep us following.
This is original footage. Ooh. That guy right there in the blue shirt, that guy was the vice president of Hamilton CUPE, the vice president of the union in Hamilton. That guy that he is throwing the lumps to was a pastor, a Christian pastor, that was in a park, and a mob of the alphabet soup came and literally beat the snot out of a half a dozen old people and pastors. So, and it was organized and led by a member of CUPE. Incidentally, the only guy that got arrested for trying to stop trains in Mississauga or wherever it was, he finally did get arrested at one point. 3 people were arrested. He was one of them.
Some of their footage is our own, but you'll recognize these people
Very
who were just arrested in Hamilton for blocking the railroad tracks. Every one of these people listed is charged here under this Wet'suwet'en support protest shutting down Canada are known leaders and even union members in Hamilton. One of them is the vice president of CUPE in Hamilton.
So they hijacked the Wet'suwet'en, they hijacked the LGBTQ, they hijacked now the Palestine support. That's what people need to understand. It's the same organizations, same people.
You see that right there. Here again, these are not allegations. These are evidence and documents, public information you guys can access yourself. Direct from the Hamilton Spectator. Now, we can, like I said, only touch on a few of these guys. And here's some of the players. Kurt Phillips, you're going to meet him. Bernie Farber, some of you may know him. Evan Balgord, he is like the super soldier for them all. Elizabeth Moore is a name you may not have heard of. Warren and Lisa Kinsella, you probably have heard of. Elise Hadigan, Mike Lockman, and more. Mike Lockman was just the fellow who just joined us here for a split second. You can keep rolling that, Derek. And a couple of the organizations, Anti-Racist Canada, Anti-Hate, TSAS, SPLA, Southern Poverty Law Association, and a bunch of unions. A few of their platforms you'll see listed there below. Check these.
So in this story, I don't believe Elise Hadigan to be a member of this syndicate. She was the one charging Bernie Farber and Warren Kinsella. She's just a part in this story. So it was she's endured and suffered everything to the point of considering MAID now to get out of what she's endured at the hands of Bernie Farber and his sycophant army. And they are absolute sickos. So I just wanted to clarify that on Elisa's part. She got suckered by these guys, used and abused and spit out, and they destroyed her. But some of the corporations and nonprofits that you needs to understand. So I hope people go back and get plugged into Blacklock's work as well. If they want to talk to me about this, I'm more than happy to. But the Anti-Racist Canada, Anti-Hate Network, TSAS, the Liberal Party of Canada, the SPLA, the Southern Poverty Law Association, yes, that is George Soros, and many unions. A couple of their websites are wexitpurge.com, antihate.ca, and Anti-Racist Canada blogspot.
These guys out, as well as some that we discussed earlier on. This is the cost they leave behind. These are just a few of the symbols, flags, and organizations that we have filmed with our own cameras, seen with our own eyes, that are organized as.
And when I'm saying that in this video, that was those, when we went back, Derek and I went back through our footage, we identified every one of these symbols and flags at some of those events of destruction.
All apart.
Except for TSAS, which you see on the left-hand side there. So now that's a particularly scary swamp creature. It's the Canadian Network for Research on Terrorism, Security, and Society. We'll get in a little bit more on that. If you have any questions, let me know.
Of this organization who you. Do you remember this? This was Hamilton. here, 82-year-old lady. This same group, led by these same organizations. This is the respect they have for Canada.
That was an absolutely disgusting display by Antifa. Yeah, we were at that one.
So, who are these organizations?
That was interesting because that was Antifa protesting Dave Rubin and Max Bernier. That was what Antifa showed up for that night. Dave Rubin is a gay American podcaster, and Max Bernier, you know who he is. But yeah, they assaulted that like 90-year-old couple that night there. That's what they do. They're brave then.
Go to Anti-Racist Canada.
First one we're going to take a quick look at. Most of you guys are familiar with these guys, so we're not going to spend a lot of time. Here are some of the main players throughout the history of Anti-Racist Canada. Kurt Phillips, who is in the Fifth Estate documentary, Bernie Farber, a longtime associate, and current associate Elise Hadigan and Evan Belgord, both contributors. So, pause this for a sec there. You guys saw and met and have heard of now Kurt Phillips, founder of Anti-Racist Canada, Catholic school teacher in Drumheller, Alberta. I will say, yes, he still has his job. I have really hesitated to go out there, but you'll find him online all over under the username Nosfera2200. And with him, he started out with a righteous cause, but along the way, he lost track of the law and started making justice up as he went along. Now, after he was basically exposed by accident on the CBC Fifth Estate documentary,
there was a big scandal over that because he was upset that he got outed, that the CBC hadn't disguised his identity well enough, that he actually had to live up then to us knowing who it was behind the crimes that CBC was trying to glorify. It's just so disgusting. This is why I call the mainstream media mercenaries. They're freaking assassins. They're hired to destroy truth and people and our society. And now they're all whining and sniveling because they're getting fired. Well, guess what? When you're a mercenary, that makes you expendable, and you will be the first expense when the deep state is done with you useful idiots. So these guys still upset me because these monsters have never been stopped. And this guy is whining and sniveling and crying because he got outed for what he is, a freaking psychopath. I have no empathy for these people. These swamp creatures deserve what they get.
Has officially been promoted to the board of the Anti-Hate Network. The same organization just received $25,000 from the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is George Soros. Kurt and Bernie have been associated since the early days of the Anti-Racist Canada blog. Today, they're in the business of monetizing their platforms by manufacturing haters. They need a public boogeyman, and conveniently, the Yellow Vests gave them something to turn into a monetized system of hate. So
Trudeau needed a bad guy.
Take a little bit of a look at the connection there. Here we have Anti-Hate Canada. Bernie Farber, who's also one of the founding members of the Mosaic Institute, and he was once with the Canadian
Congress of Jews or whatever.
Canadian Jewish Congress. Since Kurt's exposure, they officially announced, although they worked together beforehand, you'll see, you can pause this for a second. You'll see in the court transcripts where they worked together, bouncing off of each other's networks to grow themselves between Evan Belgord and Bernie Farber and Kurt Phillips. Now, where this gets interesting,
when they have two people calling you a bad guy, well, then people start listening. More people start listening, right? that's the point of them ping-ponging between their platforms. Anti-hate network.ca would label us a racist, and ARC would come out and say, yep, they're racist, they're dangerous, and this was how these guys operate.
Is most of us you probably didn't know that Bernie Farber and Warren Kinsella have been friends since the early days. Also, you'll see in transcripts where they refer to each other as brothers from other mothers. So
that's Warren Kinsella and Bernie Farber.
Long way.
Trudeau
If
henchmen.
you look at the starting date of when anti-hate was founded and who they were working with, and when the assaults on the Yellow Vests and Maxime Bernier started, the timelines are 100% in line with each other. So this brings us to Evan Belgorod, who's kind of, like I said, the super soldier of them all. He's
the guy you see as the expert on hate on any news, mainstream media, mercenary organization. Yeah, Stefan, so Stefan was hospitalized by these thugs after an event in Ottawa. These same thugs. This clown on the screen right now would have been there hiding out somewhere in the shadows with a set of binoculars. I've seen him with my own eyes, but unfortunately he evades the cameras at said events. But he loves to watch over his troops in action.
Contributing writer to the Anti-Racist Canada Network, that's ARC, has been for years. He's also an executive director with the Anti-Hate Network. He's an active leader and influencer to Antifa ground forces as well. We have captured pictures of him sneaking around directing the troops at different events in Ottawa. Now he's a contributor to the TSAS organization. He publicly slipped after the little old lady incident in Hamilton, and he went on to Twitter and he lost his cool at the people that had actually engaged in those acts.
These guys really, really hate it when they get outed for or get proper credit for doing some of the slimy things that they do. And I just got to take a second here. If you're watching this on Facebook, don't be surprised if you get cut off. We get shut down. This is only a rare opportunity that they're letting me still stream on Facebook. I highly, highly, highly encourage you to get plugged in over on What's Up Canada on Rumble. And they're getting notifications. You don't need to worry about it. It's same time, same place, every day, Monday to Friday. But this guy here is a special piece of work. Like I said, this is a guy that they go to as experts.
At the Freedom of Speech event with Maxime Bernier and Dave Rubin, we were there at that event. Kevin Metcalf, another known propagandist, was there and arrested that night as well. Here you'll see Evan's tweet where he went on Twitter that night after he was really, really upset because they had actually played into dirty territory where in the mainstream media's eye.
Yeah. Some of their abusers got arrested.
Yeah, they gave
he was
a
mad.
black guy in the mainstream media, and he was very upset by this, right? So now these guys are all comrades, and now this is the last person we're gonna touch on here in this part right now. She's the linchpin of this all. She's the one that broke this story. She was a contributing writer for the Anti-Racist Canada Network for years until her and Kurt Phillips had a falling out, and she went off. Now later on throughout this time frame, she ended up in court with Bernie Farber and Warren Kinsella. We're going to pause here for just a second to elaborate on this and why this is all important. Very, very important. People built their credibility off of Elise's life story. Some of you guys may remember the Heritage Front a white supremacist organization that was taken down in the late 80s by somebody who blew the whistle on them. Well, it was Elise Haitigan that blew the whistle on the Heritage Front. She got a bunch of them arrested, took down that organization, and basically went into hiding. Towards the tail end of the existence of that organization, one other young lady who looked similar to Elise came into the group for a few weeks or a month or so, and over the following years kind of adopted parts of Elise's story as her own, and this turned into somebody that Bernie Farber had met, and I'm only telling you stuff that's in the transcripts. You guys can go back and read
You
this.
can find it online too. They talk about this on
Farber groomed her.
a couple of radio or talk shows on TV. So we'll continue on.
Yep. So she's on Twitter. She's telling her story, the truth about this too, where Bernie Farber and these people have basically stole her identity, stole her story, and the lawsuit is basically because they turned it into a movie and a book. Some of you guys may have seen the movie
White Lies.
White
Sarah
Lies?
Polley.
with Sarah Polley. Yeah. So
So yeah, so the gist of the story. So Elise had Bernie Farber in court for claiming identity theft and profiteering from identity theft of this Moore character lady, stealing parts of Elisa's life, and Bernie and her turned it into this movie and book called White Lies that they profited from and cut Elise out of it, even though it was her life story. The falling out, according to the transcripts, between Kurt Phillips, the Catholic school teacher, was that he wanted a relationship with her, a sexual relationship with her, and she wasn't interested in him. So they had an extreme falling out. Although at that time, Elise believed that Kurt Phillips was genuinely pursuing and taking down white supremacist groups. So Elise has lived a horrible time through this. So I want to clarify this on Elise's behalf, that at no point am I, accusing her of being, one of the swamp creatures in this. These guys have left devastation and chaos behind them everywhere they've ever been. But carry on.
Oh, come on. Come on.
now, this is just a quick slide here. We're not going to spend a lot of time on the Anti-Hate Network today. They're going to get their own show really, really soon. But one of the things that we wanted you to understand of what they do, what their influence is, and this is it. This is you can find this information again. They provide recommendations, and in this case, they provided recommendations to forward Bill C-71, and the names that were on the bottom of that are significant. Bellegarde, Elizabeth Warren, lawyer Richard
Warman.
Richard Warman. Yeah, so this is what they do. They provide recommendation on policy, right? So there we go. Yeah, Bernie Farber, Richard Warman, who's the lawyer.
Amira Algo. Yeah. Isn't she a Liberal member of Parliament now?
We'll release this all in a sound, just a documentary later on, but Interactive Live gives us the opportunity to do this, take, pause, and talk. Richard Warman, some of you guys might be familiar with him. Anybody that's basically in the lawfare persecution box, like Faith Goldie, that's who's heading the charge in the legal department. He is their top lawyer.
He's a human rights activist too.
And
he also gets credit for taking out David Icke.
Human rights activists. So this is the people that are masquerading under this antihatenetwork.ca and providing the pushback against reality, I guess. Go.
So they're taking part in the gun laws
Um,
and the anti-hate laws,
This is where
and
it's going to get
way more
really,
policy
really
stroke
interesting,
than
guys. How many of you guys have ever heard of TSAS? Terrorism, Security, and Society is a NGO, a non-government organization created to develop policy recommendations on terrorism, security, and society.
Sound like some dictators.
Does that sound like 1984? Now, this is just a quick, we'll pause here for a quick sec. And this, we're going to take a little bit of a dive into who they are. Dig into them yourselves. The website's easy to remember. The link is at the bottom. You'll see here right on the bottom of the page, who are some of the affiliates and contributors. Who's that guy? Who is that guy? You might recognize from the far left, Mr. Evan Bellegarde, and then there's Elise Hadigan, and then that is, yes, Mr. Ahmed Hussein. All contributors and coordinators in the
swamp
organization.
creatures.
And what they do is they provide research reports. Here's a screenshot of one we're going to take a little quick look at here in a second. And I really encourage you guys to, and we'll give you guys a link to this report. You can go and download and read this report yourself. Please, please, please do, because you will be mortified. We're only going to touch on a couple of paragraphs here for a quick second, because it's 37 pages long. But you guys need to know who this is and who they are and who they work with and what they do. And look who they answer to. So what these guys do is TSAS publishes evidence-based, policy-relevant, scholarly analysis on
What they call evidence-based. They decide what they call evidence. Evan Bellegarde, Bernie Farber, Ahmed Hussein. In that 37-page report, you'll read in there, and you'll say, "Wait a minute." If you read that 37-page report, and if you ever heard Chrystia Freeland when she was at the United Nations telling people that far right national ideology is the greatest threat to democracy in the world, that was that report, guys. That exact report compiled by TSAS that the Talking Tater Tot was telling the UN that you, me, we, us are the single greatest threats to democracy in the world. That little Nazi lover is who gets their hands on this, and that Ahmed Hussein character, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure he spent, like a couple of years in prison in a place like Somalia, where he was from, for terrorism before he came here and became one of Trudeau's henchmen, right? So you cannot tell me that a swamp creature like that suddenly became morally and ethically virtuous just because you got a job with Trudeau, right? No, that gave him an opportunity to access all of these entities and securities and all of these agencies that quote unquote protect and serve us are taking orders and information and intel and evidence from these meat muppets.
On topics related to terrorism, security, and society, broadly defined, that touch on Canadian issues in comparative context. They are written clearly and with an audience of cross-disciplinary scholars, policymakers, and practitioners in the field of terrorism, security, and countering violent extremism in mind. The Canadian Network for Research on Terrorism, Security, and Society is supported in a national strategic incentive funded by SHRC and Public Safety Canada, that's you guys, and along with the following departments of the federal government: the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Canadian Security Intelligence Services, Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, Correctional Services Canada, Defense Research and Development Canada, Global Affairs Canada, Security Intelligence Review Committee, Office of the Communications Security Establishment Commissioner.
The link's at the bottom of the page here, just some people are asking, we just don't have time to type it in right now, but we'll add it in after.
I can pull that link up and drop it in, and I can do that.
I'll just roll a little bit to the next
Let it roll to the next slide, and I will drop the link in here. You guys are really going to have your eyeballs roll back when you go and research this yourself. So just from the second page, these guys are focused on public discourse of extra-parliamentary far-right groups to analyze how groups shape discourses on Muslims and Islam in an attempt to influence public debates on core far-right issues, such as immigrants. They claim that academics have actually reached a high degree of consensus on its main characteristics, talking about far right, alt-right.
So this group of thugs are now have been elevated to academics and policymakers, informing and giving intelligence and evidence to this organization that becomes the driver and director of the censorship, and who is the threat to Canada. So I hope everybody is putting this together. You know, this is the tip of the spear of the treason that our government literally manufactured a front corp company, and this non-governmental agency to create and manufacture the crisis they need to implement the fascism and communism that they want. That's what these guys are doing. This is Satan's army, the swamp army in Canada, being laundered and whitewashed through TSAS. And right now they are running the Palestinian revolt. They may have started it, but that's a monster that they cannot control, even in their hubris, if they think that they can.
Radical right and right-wing extremists, that they've reached a consensus on its main characteristics, suggesting that the party's authoritarianism, their anti-democracy, and their exclusionary and or holistic nationalism should all be considered defining properties of right-wing extremism and radicalism, with xenophobia, racism, and populism seen as accompanying features. So anything that they determine as xenophobic, racist, or populist is an accompanying feature to a right-wing extremist, radical right, far right, or an alt-right.
Now, this is why your government tells every single mainstream mercenary outlet to call you far right, because these meat muppets told them to.
Under their broad brushes. While there may be a consensus emerging about the predominant ideological characteristics of this movement, many concepts such as right-wing, new right, radical right, or far right are sometimes used interchangeably or seen as competing. So these new concepts are just all being put under one term of alt-right. So they're looking at how do they generate mistrust and suspicion towards Muslims amongst activists and sympathizers. It's just what they're doing is to make everything ordinary racism. Everything is alt-right, and they're going to recommend in their policy, and at the end of this 37-page report, please go and download it and read it.
So now you see how they charge their activists up to attack.
And you'll see there the Mosaic Institute and the Organization for the Prevention of Radicalization Leading to Violence, other NGOs working that support and do these same things. So this is what TSAS does. Now here we're taking a little bit of a better look at that. You can see all of the universities and the global institutions and international organizations everywhere. This is our entire secondary.
You want to know why it's all in the universities?
Overwhelmed,
this is why.
And these are the people that are being organized against us through recommendations through organizations like this that have all of these contributing members that, like Evan Bellegord and Mike Lockmans and I mean, here's the thing. These guys have more than 350 contributors that contribute to this. We have not had time to go through all of the
contributors that many are infiltrators. These people, they slide into your groups, they slide into your events, and they report back to these guys. In almost any group that gains any form of momentum that gets noticed by these guys will be attempted to be infiltrated by these guys, and they will sooner or later almost always be successful enough to find what they want, anything that they can spin into labeling. I mean, even the Catholic Church. These are the guys that label the Catholic Church an enemy of the state, a danger, a threat to the state. These same people, and they have 350 plus of them that go out like little vermin and infiltrate and poison and destroy everything that they can get their smarmy little noses into.
Those contributors. Just in the short time that since we discovered this organization, we have counted no less than 8 to 10 known Antifa activists and leaders that are contributors to all of the Antifa and hate sites out there that supply and contribute the information to the TSAS organization, who answers to these guys you see here. That information gets dispelled to the University of Waterloo, Laval, Ottawa, Toronto, Carleton, UBC, University of Alberta, Concordia. I mean, this isn't even all of them.
They run out of University of Waterloo, and if you guys remember that article that William Ray put out where they did what sweat and training is at Carleton University.
Right. This is where it ties in again to this. Right. So here we've got a giant NGO with contributors from all demographics of the radical left.
So when we were doing this, they had at that time 350 contributing writers, and it took us a month of going through a bunch of them, and we identified 12 that were regular contributors or participants with the Anti-Hate Network and or ARC or some of these other Antifa organizations. And we kind of had it in our minds at the time when we were putting this together that we wanted a dozen before we would do this little documentary thing that we did here. So when we identified a dozen of them, that was when we put this together, and I think it was January of 2021.
Providing the research reports to create the policy and gain the support of it through these organizations reporting back to the government.
How do you guys remember this? I'm here. My name is Jack Siegel. I'm counsel for Mr. Bulgard, and I'm accompanied by Bernie Farber, who's the executive director of the Canadian Hate.
This is lawfare. This is lawfare. This is a $30,000. No, this one here was they were trying to audit. Yeah, they're forcing an audit, taking it to court. They just now announced, I think a week or two ago, another $35,000 lawsuit because she shared somebody else's tweet on Twitter that hurt her feelings, so they're suing her again for another $35,000. This is what they do. That's their playbook.
The network. Which all comes back to this.
Which all comes back to this. Again, these two people are kind of the linchpins of
the story.
Giant network. And this is where we're going to get into it. You guys can see the document. You'll see it there, the document court file number, where Elise Hadigan and Elizabeth Moore and Bernie Farber, this is her affidavit. This is 175 pages that we scoured through. She put this out publicly herself. They are filed a counterclaim against her. This has been in court for a very long time. We have the rest of the transcripts as well. So we are not sharing anything that was not made public by others. We are just connecting some of the dots and some of the people. In this case here, we've added some pictures so you could put some faces to this. Now, Elizabeth Moore is kind of a new point in this story for some of you. But yeah, so we're going to dig into a couple of the pages and bring up some of the highlights. So initially, these guys all started with good intentions. And Elise says that Elizabeth and Bernie maybe wanted to show how they manipulated young people into spreading a hateful message. However, Bernie's desire to swiftly make this happen, he skipped over details that would have made it abundantly clear that Elizabeth was lying about the extent of her involvement with the Heritage Front and that she had grossly exaggerated her contributions and value to the group. As Hearts of Hate's director at Bernie at the time, he was featured in the same 1995 Maclean's article that led to Elizabeth's White Lies movie deal. Once Bernie had started materially benefiting from Elizabeth's deception, it was no longer in his best interest to scrutinize her ever-changing, inconsistent narrative. Now, this I've seen in interviews that they've done together, where she cannot do an interview without Bernie. She can't. She has to ask Bernie for the answers in their interviews, right?
TDO one.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So we've seen this. That this story isn't hers, and she doesn't have it in her own mind. So now this affidavit is, yes, in Elise's words, but this is as close to truth as you're going to get sworn to truth. So as a former director of the Canadian Jewish Congress and the executive director of the Mosaic Institute at the time, the agenda with Steve Pelican was taped. Bernie had a moral, ethical, and fiduciary duty responsibility to ensure that his position would not be leveraged and used to promote fraud in the community, a community that she is a part of. He neglected his duty and spoke on behalf of the Mosaic Institute in its capacity as former CJC director when he endorsed Moore's false claims and committed the tort of appropriation. So this is where she's detailing how her story, the lie got out, and then they had to live up to the lie. By the time it became a movie deal and a book deal, it was out of the bag. They had to live up to the lie at that point. And they were building their credibility off of this, was what was happening at the time, inadvertently. Later on, they were, are we rolling? I have a long slide there. All right. They both profited commercially off of this from 1995 on. So this is 25 years later. Elise is still fighting with these guys in court. So this is where we're at here now. So Farber was also the editor of the From Marches to Moderns, a report on organized hate in Metro Toronto, commissioned by the Access and Equity Center at the Municipality of Metropolitan Toronto. As an editor of a report paid to City of Toronto public funds, it was Farber's duty and responsibility to do due diligence and ensure that Elizabeth's contribution was fact-checked, free of falsehoods and or appropriations. This happened on multiple occasions since 1995 up to 2019, both in written documents and via public. These false hits consist of Moore's appropriation of her verifiable lived experiences as accounted both in 1990 newsreel footage, press, and Heritage Front videotapes. So here again, she's explaining more and more of this story that these guys, and the significance of this is these guys are supposed to be the experts, the go-to experts on hate in Canada, providing policy to the government, and their credibility is based on stealing somebody else's life, right? So since this has been going on since 1995, he cannot extricate himself easily from a lie that's spun out of control. She just wants him to tell the truth, and it goes on more in details and brings in other people, representing their experience is not just they use it as a financial and publicity opportunity for the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, and Farber himself to claim that he rescued the pretty public face of the Heritage French. He's used his endorsements, as his credibility as of his time on the Canadian Jewish Congress, his good name, to promote and endorse a fraud. Now, this got into some sticky stuff even back in the day. And this is where, again, there's names that are going to come up here that have been buried. There are people that are in secret witness protection programs based on this case, right? And I'm not going to dig into that. Some of it was highlighted there. You may have seen it. You can read it yourselves in this novel of a transcript. Here again, this is more on. This is to provide habit. Bernie has been a shadow actor with other people, and this CSIS agent that went undercover, and this is really an intricate story. CSIS was involved, SIRC was investigating, and ultimately in the end, bad accusations of bad cops and bad investigations. This Bristow character has basically been put into witness protection, never to be seen or heard from again. In 1994, she testified in the House of Commons about what she had witnessed this Bristow do and how they was involved with Bernie, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's a whole other story. He was an agent provocateur within the organization, and he never did anything as his time as a cop and ended up with witness protection. So this is more into details of between all of that, and this is where it gets a little bit interesting. This is where she herself brings Warren Kinsella and the Daisy Group into this discussion, and she met Kinsella in 2015 on the social media platforms, and Kinsella had remembered her, etc. They developed a little bit of a relationship. Kinsella had used him for his blog, and so they'd started to develop a relationship already in 2015. 2017, they turned on her. They turned on Elise Hedigan, and by that I mean Kinsella and Phillips. The whole organization turned on her because she wasn't letting go of her identity hearing. So they couldn't play both sides of the fence anymore. So at this point, because they were all named in it, they turned on Elizabeth and basically socially destroyed her, deplatformed her, and took away her social credit score, her credibility, all of that. Including massive backlash on every platform from primarily Kinsella. So she's been getting lambasted with this for a long time. So these slides are a little long to let people read through them at their time and speed. So we're kind of skimming over a lot of this right now. And here again, there's just way more into the relationship between her and Kinsella and the story and how it unfolded, bringing Farber into it. And Farber made his choice as well. But this is
if you, again, you can go to, Elise, she's on Twitter. You can go to her Twitter account as well. And she's got the story up there as well. So we're not sharing anything that nobody else has. We're just putting it together in context with other people that are a part of it. We got a double here again. All right. So every time she went in public to try and tell her story, she's received a Warren Kinsella handshake and a systematic smear campaign. We know that this is what he does for a living. This all connects into what's happened in our experiences in the last year. Now we've got the industry and media leaders in some of the biggest ones, in Warren Kinsella, a longtime political media guy, and this is basically in 175 pages describes and talks about collusion between Farber and Moore and Kinsella, not just against Haitigan, but against all of us as well. As a matter of fact, this is what I mean. Basically, with what they've done to Maxime Bernier as well, this is just more part and parcel, right out of the same playbook. They both use their platforms. I'm not. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is evidence of conspiracy being repeated. This is a systematic conspiracy of disseminating false information and slander, right? So she goes in there a little bit where she meets Kurt Phillips. This is where Kurt Phillips comes into the picture in 2011. And this is 3 years after Kurt started ARC, the Anti-Racist Canada platform. So he was kind of in the fight in the right purposes. And at that time, I saw some of his work. He was going after the nasty skinheads, the combat, like some real badasses. But this is why I added that clip from Dr. Moore and Rex Murphy in there to explain, so we understand that once you win the good fights, it turns into a racket. And this is exactly what has happened with all of these groups and organizations. So this goes more into and explains in quite good detail her relationship with Kurt Phillips and how she ended up writing for them, ARC Collective. And they used her stories and credibility and photos and all of that stuff and used that to build their own credibility, which was later again used to leverage into this money-making scheme that we're really seeing in living up with us right now. So here, somebody else gets mentioned for the first time in this particular document. As an expert in the field of anti-racism in Canada and someone regularly relying on reporters who cover stories about neo-fascism in Canada, such as Evan Belgord. So this is where it shows us that Evan Belgord's been in the picture a long time as a left-wing media guy. And then there's other people. Lynn Rudner is mentioned in here. So this now it starts to cross over into the CBC, not doing due diligence, not vetting their stories. Funding films and stories and campaigns and news as truth falsely, representing the wrong people's narratives. So that's going back as far as 2015, right? So
I just said there that they had a fall out with Kurt Phillips before it flipped.
Right. So yeah, they got mad at each other in 2015. 2018, Canadian Anti-Hate Network was created. Now this is where it gets interesting. As soon as the Canadian Anti-Hate Net Collective was created, Kurt openly described himself as a member of their advisory board in a blog entry dated May 5th, 2018. That's right from the beginning. He was just now
last month or the month before, promoted officially to the board. That's why I used that term earlier. He is now active. The mutual publicity between both ARC and Canadian Anti-Hate Network was solidified when both Bernie Farber and Evan Bellegarde repeatedly requested that their own social media followers visit Anti-Racist Canada and Patreon page to make donations. So here they're fundraising together. All of them have been fundraising together for a very long time and gaining grants. There's been millions of dollars donated to these guys through Southern Poverty Law Center, Canadian taxpayers. You see at the Mosaic Institute, some of the other de-radicalization organizations. They receive funding from universities and colleges and support as well. So
that was the foundation of one of the articles that Blacklocks had done, was identifying through FOIA requests. I think that they've been able to get somewhere near $1 million more in grants of your money to continue labeling you as terrorists and to pay for the writing of a book that labeled Catholic families as an existential threat to the state. This is the grift, the theft, the crime, the treason, the psychological abuse, the infiltration, the syndicate of the Anti-Hate Network in full display, folks, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll give you a look at some of the documents that I've gathered over the last little while to add into the Substack tomorrow. You're going to love all of this when you get it all, the big picture.
They went on their smear campaign and basically publicly erased Elisa's life work. She was able to get some of it back, but not all of it. This is what happens when they deplatform you. You disappear, and they remove your life's work and history
And make a movie.
So yeah, those guys are as credible as Cartnarks. Well, I'm not sure what a Cartnark is. Is that a real Jamie Nix, or we got an imposter?
No, it's the real one.
They're these guys are resourceful. All right. So sorry, again, a little bit long on some of the slides, perhaps. Now, these guys erase them. They erased Elise, a real life person. They are erasing Faith Goldie. They are erasing Kevin J. Johnson.
Rick Boswick.
They're erasing Rick Boswick. They are erasing us, person by person by person. They're erasing Raging Humanist, the veteran. This is what they do. They are assembly line making haters, creating haters, people of interest that they need to band together and attack. So here's again some more names. Professor Perry, Adam Ellis, Barbara Perry.
TSAS as
Yep.
well.
Yep, more names. Now, when it comes back to the TSAS, we have only just begun to dig under the onion peels of that, and
Most of them claim to be ex-Nazis, apparently. They're ex-white supremacists.
ex-white supremacists calling us all of those false labels. Right. So I think this might be.
You want to just drop her down and have a chat with everybody, see what they think?
Is this the end of it?
Pretty much, yeah. There's maybe one more. Nope.
I
one
think
more slide.
that's the end of it. All right. So, all right. That was kind of a little bit of a stalled out, glitchy presentation. We will put that out in just its direct form, not a live format as well later on. But we want to make people understand who these people are, how connected they are, how big they are, and how much influence they have, and help us do some research on this. This TSAS organization, these are the guys that make the laws. The people
It's a lobby group too, so they bounce money off to all these different groups like Extinction Rebellion, the Indigenous Land Defenders, all those people that we mentioned before. So And they may not get it directly from George Soros, but they get it from either a union or whoever they're standing with.
Right. And this is why you're seeing so much of the union actions getting support as well, because they have this little comrade thing going between some of the radical unionists, and I'm not saying all of the unions, but we have we did not put any logo on there that we have not seen represented with our own cameras and eyes. So we have hours of footage of all of those organizations and unions, every single one of them. If they want evidence, we have evidence. These guys are out there. That doesn't mean to say that every one of those unions are horrible, or everyone in those unions is horrible, but you need to question the unions. You need to question the unions. What is their end game? And when we went out to the Unifor blockade here in Alberta, Carsland, we saw that as well. We saw these people are being told to go and protest, and they kind of know that this isn't all right, right? So question our unions as well. Look into them. Everybody that we brought into this video today needs questioning, needs people to understand. The unions are not what they used to be. They are now a racket too. And it's just like Rex Murphy and Dr. Moore said, when you've won all the righteous fights, soon money and becomes your driving factor, and you become a racket. And that's what has happened with the unions, with the schools, with the teachers, with the media, with the actual righteous fight against hate and evil. They have turned the tables on it all, and this is how they're doing it. And this is what we need to look at and expose these organizations.
So I'm fortunate that they hijacked the Indigenous movement there, because, you know, we've been living with the Indigenous people for how long now, and we've been getting along for how long now, and they turn them just like that. You see how powerful this program is? You know?
This is where it's gonna, when the system is being led by the mob, which is what's in essence happened now. Just like Greenpeace used to be righteous, and when they started, they got hijacked by communism and the lefties and the lobbyists and NGOs. And Dr. Moore readily identifies that. And after that happened, he left Greenpeace. He started it. They went left. He left them, and he's been fighting them for 25 years. This is what's happening with all of these different things. They started off as righteous, good organizations, but when they win their fights, it becomes a racket. And this is where we need people to connect the dots. Excuse me. We need people to connect the dots and take a part in their own personal accountability in this. Now, over the coming weeks, over the coming days, probably, we are going to completely get every attempt to discredit us, deplatform us, attack us, any source and form of income that we have, they are going to come after it. That's what they do.
They did.
It's coming. Help us out. Don't engage. Report. Help us out. Who's this? You're surprising me.
It's going down.
It's going down. This is...
We might as well bring this up now. I know a few people has, but like...
Yeah.
The cookbook.
The cookbook. Absolutely. This is the How to Burn Canada Down cookbook. How to Take Out the Rail System cookbook. This is what these guys do. I mean...
I almost forgot about this part.
Yeah, I can do that.
Report this to the cops. Please. If we can get 1,000 people to report this to the cops, then maybe we can do something. I don't know. Somebody spin up or draw up an email and make sure that we can plug that into the email networks and email all of our elected representatives from little to the top. How is this tolerated?
We've already did our security. We sent out our video
Yeah.
a couple days ago. It's all around the world right now before we even released it.
So now this is why you can see here with the power and influence why we were hesitant to bring this to light
until we were going to be able to do it justice, for it to be relevant. And for us now, our protection is you guys, the court of public opinion. We've given you guys the truth now of these organizations. We're going to go into each one of them more specifically in depth. We're going to, share information on the actual players within specifically those organizations, one at a time. The significance of today was all of these people are tied to all of these organizations, right? All of them. So that was kind of why today we had to roll it into one. Each one's going to get their own.
It got too big.
Of fame. We're going to give them all 5 minutes of fame. Let's make them all famous for a change. They're going to go to great lengths in the next couple of days to make Derek and I famous.
I know when I go through the Art Collective, every article that's written on me is either done by him, Kurt Phillips, or Blood Ring. We haven't quite figured her out yet, but I'm sure she'll pop up. But I think I have an idea of who it is now because I was doing some research last night. But until I have confirmation, I can't say anything because I don't want to make accusations,
Yeah. So, these guys don't smell. They don't pass the smell test. These guys are literally who destroyed every person's character and attacked the Yellow Vest convoy people and all of the patriots, all of the oil and gas sector. It's the same people. It's not just the Tides Foundation. It's not just George Soros. It is also the anti-hate-network.ca. It is also Anti-Racist Canada. It is also TSAS. It is also Yellow Vest Canada Exposed. It is also the Tower. It is also North Shore. It is also the anarchists.
And it's huge. They've had time to build on this. They may not have started big. They might not be as big as we think they are. It's just the agencies that they're tied with is big.
Yep. And they're organized in we tend to compete with each other rather than to fight alongside of each other. We want to compete with the guy next to us. We got to get rid of that and just be Canadians first. And we need to realize that these guys are attacking all Canadians, the Indigenous, everybody. It doesn't matter. That we're just, it literally goes on and on and on and on. So we need to make them famous for the truth instead of giving them the stage. They have the stage. They have the national stage. They own the social media stage because we don't unite to stand up to them, right? So dig into these guys. There's 350 of them, and I'm not saying to go out and attack them all, but research them,
who they are,
and you will probably be stunned at how many of those people tie directly back to all of those groups that we just mentioned. Go read that article. Oh my goodness. If you guys read through that 37-page report and you don't vomit or get incredibly enraged.
We had a gift for them or a prize. You can read through this without cringing.
Yeah, we should be able to give you a T-shirt if you could get through that without cringing. It is really,
absolutely,
my goodness.
They actually have their own media, and I don't want to touch that.
That opens up a whole.
Yeah, I don't want to touch that. I'm still digging into it.
You know what, guys? There's guys that we've uncovered here that are even way scarier than this.
Well, it's like in Winnipeg. I see Jonathan Kachuk's in here. He knows Omar. He knows how to, I went and visited him. Omar runs his own seminars in Winnipeg on who's a neo-Nazi. And there's a YouTube clip in here too where he's doing it.
So this is where, share this video out, guys. If you
guys, I've suffered enough through that, but the evidence is clear. I'm going to pull up and show you guys a few more things here that go along with this. This first one here is the the PDF file report on the HateGate affair, unmasking Canada's hate industry. So this is the report filed by created by Karima Siad and Elise Hategain. I'm going to include this in the Substack as tomorrow morning as well, so you guys can have access to this. So this is the full report on what they got out of going through the Freedom of Information requests in regards to Jeremy McKenzie. So they created Jeremy McKenzie, as you may know him now. They created him. He was really, he was a disjointed comedian podcaster before, but because of them, he fought back and he turned into something that they could not control, and so they had to destroy. And he became the reason to invoke the Emergency Measures Act and shut down Canada. So direct connection. Jeremy, podcaster, they don't like, they find him offensive, they turn him into a criminal. These guys label him, brand him as the experts, and that goes through the chain of intel and enforcement, and boom, Trudeau has the reason he needs to lock down this country. So there's, if that isn't conspiracy against Canadians, I don't know what is. That's the point of making you struggle through that whole thing, and the rest of this. So, this takes a toll on you guys. I'll tell you what, you cannot do this and drive your brain through endless thousands of pages of documents like this one, and I'm going to bring up the other ones that I've got that I'm going to put in the Substack for everybody tomorrow as well, which we got here. So this is the the first letter where these guys are responsible for trying to take your guns away too. Just silencing you isn't enough for these conspirators. They're also endeavoring to get your weapons removed. So this is where Trudeau is, leaning on these guys and their support. And you guys can see it down at the bottom of this one here too, the signatures. So you guys will get the documents in the Substack tomorrow as well. These people didn't just stay where they were at. These are the people that are, conspiring to literally redesign, reshape Canada. And last but not least, I will also include the court transcripts. So I'll make sure you guys have those too. That's a whole lot of evidence in one little package. And so this is going to be, if I'm crowdfunding for a defense attorney tomorrow or I've been silenced, y'all will know why and you will understand completely. So now on top of this here, now we've got Blacklock. So I'm hoping, I don't know the folks at Blacklock, so I'm hoping that somebody out there somebody that's watching this knows these guys. I would love to speak to them and to give them this evidence and compare more notes to more of the stuff that we've got. So some heavy stuff, guys. Nothing happens by accident with these guys, and right up to the mainstream media hired to destroy us. These guys are the soldiers that make that happen. So I totally get it, Mountain Man. This is a drink from the fire hose, and it's going to be that way all week. Tomorrow we've got Michael Yawn. Prepare yourself accordingly. Most Canadians are not going to be prepared for what you guys are going to hear from him tomorrow. See, it's just actually we're not getting this year in one piece. No, I don't think we are either. They're getting desperate. They're absolutely getting desperate. I wanted to see pull up this one other comment here, just because this was apt, if I can find it here, about the railroads shutting down. You guys have been talking about it in the chat here about getting prepared with the different things. Guys, that's the whole reason why on my website, I'm going to pull this up for everybody just because y'all have given me the reason to pull this up again on my website. You'll see up in partners, the Set Me Free section. This is about an alternative supply. Guys, we don't sell fresh food, but if you're in the US, you can get the best beef on the market from us, from yourself. You can shop as just a shopper, or you can come in as an affiliate. You can come in and make money as a promoter. But the whole reason I got involved with this company in the first place was because of what COVID and lockdowns taught me. If it wasn't for these guys, I would have been forced to at some point fight with some meat muppet at some door, some rent-a-cop or a clerk on a power trip, telling me that I have to mask up, I have to follow the lines, I have to do all of this crap. And I have this giant GFY button in me that says, go F yourself, and I will find something else. So that is why I partnered up with these guys, was to solve that problem. I will never have to worry about that again. The quality is exceptional. The range of choice is exceptional. The customer service is over the top. It's not the cheapest. It's not the dollar store stuff, but you're going to get the best product made for basically Walmart prices anyways. So this is why we have these guys as a partner. It's the number one and only reason why I have these guys as a partner, was because I saw what they could do. I saw the problems that they could solve, and we can build on this as a community. So that, yeah, the encounters with the Karens and the Kens. Tell me, anybody that's out there, if you can get better quality product for the same price or less, a money back guarantee, delivered to your door, and you don't have to deal with the Karens and the Kens, why aren't y'all over there hitting the button and at least taking a tour and getting a look at some of the stuff that we do? Jennifer Jupiter, we have been fighting with them guys for a year, but Trudeau will not let it happen. So hopefully they keep working on it, fighting with him, and just get just to the point where, okay, he's going to say yes, and boom, yep, nope, finds another way to make sure that we can't have it in Canada. But so that's, I'm very, very envious of our friends and family just south of that border that get access to such wonderful stuff. And we should be used to the fact that here in Canada, thanks to Trudeau and co, we're not allowed to have nice things or healthy things, or even to live anymore. We're not allowed to speak. We're not allowed to own firearms. We're not allowed to think, lest the mercenaries will come after you. So that, guys, is, wow, a 2-hour marathon. My head is full. My heart is full. I think I've delivered everything that I could up to the current information on this story. Yeah. Goko, there's many great products in yes we can't get. I know, it's crazy. It's interesting that we're allowed to get so many of the things that we are through Patriot Switch. These guys, one of the things that impresses me is they continue to try, adapt, improvise, and overcome to try to make sure that we we can, have access to better stuff. And, I wish that there was a solution, Canadian-made solution, Canadian manufacturing, but they got rid of all that. We don't have anything like that made here in Canada anymore. So these guys are working with Canadians. Canadians are getting jobs. We're getting a better product, and we're doing what we can. But it's been a long time building. We operate through as a distributor. So we have a distributor made in the USA. Patriot Switch isn't their website. This is where it comes into licensing issues. In order to do this in Canada, we're not allowed to use we can't use the supplier's name. I can't use the wholesaler's name, but we can operate in Canada through Patriot Switch. So that's why we do it this way. So happy to talk to people off camera and explain it all to you. There's no secrets in it. The company was started 40 years ago now. Obama named him the most dangerous conservative in America because he wouldn't let his manufacturing go to China. So this is why, when they saw what was going on here in Canada, they put together a plan and a strategy and an ability to do that. There's a bunch of information on my website, guys. That's the best thing that I can do here from camera. Send me a message, send me questions, send me an email. Happy to answer anything as soon as I possibly can. These guys are my solution to that problem. And there's a lot there, and it's one of the few places where I actually somebody that have a volunteer that works for me. Oh, by the way, we do have a new moderator on the Rumble chat. So anybody that misbehaves is going to have to deal with Little Farmer, and she's going to knock your butt out. So thank you to Little Farmer for helping out with that. You can send me an email at contact@whatsupcanada.org if you have any questions. Definitely can have a hard time keeping up to the coffee. That's basically what I live on. If anybody wants to help me with buying me a coffee, buymeacoffee.com/whatsupc is how you can do that. All of this stuff will be in the Substack tomorrow, as always. How can you get to the Substack? From the bottom of any of my pages on my website. Your likes and subscribes and shares absolutely matter. I see we got 32 thumbs up on Rumble. Guys, I love and appreciate you so much, but it's kind of a little bit soul crushing for me when I look out here, and I know we used to have 3, 4, 5,000 people do it during a live stream, and they just make sure that nobody can find our stuff, nobody gets notifications on time. It's so difficult. So you guys are getting it from the horse's mouth. Everybody else gets it quite a while later. But we're doing our best at the tip of the spear here in the information warfare stage that we're in. Support your independent journalists wherever they might be, the ones that you trust, the ones that are doing the brave things that they pay a price for. Support them. And if this platform here at What's Up Canada is the one that you want or would consider helping to stay in the fight, to keep the trusted journalism working hard, forever grateful. And this is the best way to help me out, guys. This is where buy me a coffee is great. They take a cut. PayPal is great. They take a cut. Substack, you can subscribe there. I think it's $6 or $8 a month there. If you choose to, it's free. There's no charge. I won't charge people to access. Never. The content is always free. But I count on getting to enough people and that some people find value enough to help out with that. So that, I think, is everything and more in a nutshell. A giant shell full of nuts, guys. So yeah, don't forget to tune into for Michael Yon tomorrow. Yeah, still that one's still rattling my brain around. All right, guys, I love you all. Stay mighty, my fellow friends, patriots, warriors, hostages, and we will see you again tomorrow, same time, same place, and it'll be fun. Quick little bonus minute. I almost forgot. Every night, I think it's Carly, is told me she promised that she would hound me to find out what that song was. And this isn't the one. This is the one, guys. It's called Found You by Leo Islo. So you've been seeing Carly and Heard, and for those that are curious, the intro is signed Faint June called Trip. So there you guys go. A little bit of personal closing credits. I love you all. See you tomorrow.